Okay, we're good.
We ready?
We're ready.
All right, let's call this meeting to order at 2:33 p.m. I think we're starting with introductions. My name is Barbara Caffey. I am the representative for the Small Cities and Eudora Corporation. And so we introduced Tara, said she's new again.
New again.
Hi, I'm Tara. I was on the board for 8 years, took a year off, and Betty, as her last act before retirement, twisted my arm for me to come back again.
Yay, Betty.
Okay, Cheryl?
Cheryl Young, I'm the library director in Lakeside.
Teresa?
Teresa Lucas, library director, Coquille.
Lori?
Board member north of North Bend within District 19.
Amy?
Hi, I'm Amy from Myrtle Point.
Is Joni there? Joni?
Should be.
Joni Bedwell, Powers Public Library.
Thank you.
I am Letty from Tuttle Library. Carol Benton, I represent North Bend in City.
St. Kingsbury, Gavin Library. Kathy Johnston, Small Cities plus Dora.
Sandy Pearson, Coos Public Library.
Haley Legacy, North Bend Public Library. Patron of the Coos
Adrian DeLeon, Coos Bay outside.
Francis Smith, Coos Bay inside.
I'm Stacy Nix, the Extended Service Office Administrator.
Okay, do we have any changes to the agenda? Nobody? Okay. So shall we move on to approval of the minutes? Everybody got a chance to read the minutes?
I move approval of the minutes from, what was it, August?
No, October 9th.
October 9th.
So we have a motion to approve the October 9th, 2023 minutes and a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Okay, so old business, board approval of distribution formula and transition plan. Haley, is that you?
Sure, and I would like to have my fellow committee members here present to help me think for the next number of things. I prepared a committee report which was shared to you from Stacy. And this report contains recommendations to update the district's distribution of funds to member libraries. For an effort to try to make this as clear as possible, I broke it down into recommendation A, which is a timeline, recommendation B, which is the new distribution formula, and recommendation C, which is the implementation plan for that new formula. And I would be happy, I think, along with my committee members, to answer any questions that board members have about any of these recommendations. As a committee, our recommendation to the board is that you vote to move forward with these 3 recommendations to solicit stakeholder input as outlined in recommendation A timeline.
So how does this differ from what was presented at the last meeting?
It does not.
Oh, it does not. It's
No,
the same
the substance
document.
of it is the same. I did go through and add a few additional steps to our timeline. Those include the drafting of our ongoing review procedures and the dates for items that Stacy had shared with the board that would be necessary to meet in order to make the timeline for implementation for the next fiscal year. I also updated the terminology used for our factors to match what is shown on the state reports. That's for consistency and something that I noted as we were working on our definitions for those items. We want to be consistent in the language that we use. And the only other addition is that I have on the third page, last two paragraphs of recommendation B, so towards the middle of the page, prior to the implementation of this transition plan, the distribution committee will provide the CLB with a fail-safe plan to employ if a library's level of funding falls below the minimum amount necessary to operate. And definitions and data collection methods for the above statistics will be provided in an appendix, which is currently in draft form.
So with great fear and trepidation, because I'm new, but just to clarify for those of you who don't know me, I was involved in this like 8 years ago when we were starting. I'm concerned, like, are all of the library directors on board with having it go into effect for this coming fiscal year? Because that seems like a really tight timeline to me.
No.
Because like I'm concerned knowing, like, I'm on a few different boards. This seems like it's not going to leave enough time for libraries. I mean, some of them are probably beginning their budgeting process right now, like the gathering of information and all of that. And so because of the timely or the length of time that it takes to get a budget approved, you have to publish it, all those different pieces. I'm just concerned that if the Board of Commissioners has an issue with it, nobody's going to know that until March. And most budgets are already well underway by March and April.
Kara, to speak from the committee perspective, at our last temperature check or survey of library directors, my takeaways from that was that at one end of the spectrum, Coquille is not prepared to move forward or not in favor of moving forward. On the other end of the spectrum, the Bandon Library is very eager to move forward and feels that it is essential for the function and health of their library to move forward. And that the other libraries in the middle were willing to move forward with this proposed timeline. But I would like to invite the other directors, if you feel differently or would like to add to that, to please do so if that's okay with the chair for us to have discussion.
Anybody else?
Sarah, I agree with you. It is a very tight timeline. It really is. And I guess if things go sideways in March, I guess then that delays us another year.
But where does that leave the libraries who were perhaps counting on an increase? Those are the libraries that I would actually be more concerned about. Like, I think Bandon probably will have an increase in their distribution percentages. So they build their budget this year based on that increase. And then, you know, in March or April, it goes sideways. Then they are behind the 8 ball and coming up with a smaller budget. Whereas a library that maybe is getting a decrease, you know, for them, oh, yay, it's a windfall for another year. So that's just my concern. And again, I realize that I'm new and I haven't been part of these conversations for more than a year. It seems like, yes, we need to get this done, but having it done versus rolling out the implementation, like, I don't know, it seems like we could maybe slow that down a little bit.
Anybody else?
Can I ask a question? What would be the other option? If we don't do it right now, what would
Wait a
happen?
year.
Just wait
We
another
could
year?
still work on the same timeline. It just wouldn't go into effect until the 25-26 year. If that makes sense.
Just from Bandon's perspective, even with it happening next year, we are still in trouble. So we are still gonna have a deficit. We are still struggling and have been struggling for years. So we really need this to move forward. I actually need it to move forward more than it's going to be moving forward. So it would be really detrimental to us to put this off another year. I'm already probably gonna have to lose a full-time staff member as it is. That will be 4 of us, a library. So and if this is delayed more, it's gonna have a really huge impact. So this is a long time coming. The transition should be helping with some of the issues that some of the libraries may have, so.
Well, what I'm hearing is we could go ahead and approve this formula and go through the process, and maybe it wouldn't be implemented until the following year, but at least we would have completed our work, which we've been working on for a long time, right, Tara? So I'm eager to get this off the table. And if by chance it doesn't pass muster with the commissioners, oh well, we'll go back to the drawing board. But just to sit on the sidelines and wait for another year, to me, is not a good idea.
I'm not suggesting that we wait another year to approve it. I'm suggesting that we consider waiting a year to roll out the implementation to allow the libraries that time to shift. That's my only suggestion.
I'm afraid that if we continue on this path that we're going right now, by the time it gets to the commissioners, there's going to be a lot of people in Coquille that are going to attend that meeting. And I'm afraid that the commissioners might say, whoa, you guys need to go back to the drawing board and figure this out. So that's just what I'm afraid is going to happen if we continue on the path that we're going right now. I understand that Bandon is in a bad way. When this starts, Coquille's going to be in a bad way when it starts. So it's one or the other. And
what I would like to know, Teresa, is what would another year do if we do approve this? I think those discussions and that problem with the commissioners and the problem with Coquille flooding, it's still going to happen. We've been 8 years. I mean, how long, Tara? You know how long this has been, and you know we stand to gain. So I'm very quiet to say what I really think, to tell you the truth, because I don't want Teresa's library to have trouble. But we did this so that it would be more fair. That's the whole reason. And it doesn't feel like some people want that to happen. Because no matter what the formula is, there's always going to be somebody who's going to lose some money and people who are going to gain.
I agree with you, Cheryl, and I know that Coquille is getting more than their fair share, and I do realize that we will be the ones that need to take a cut. I'm just saying that the amount of cut that we are slated to take at this time is unreasonable, and I think we need to look at those facets a little bit more.
I think Lori wants to speak.
Thank you. I was going to bring up the same thing regarding that's been said, the timeline. We've been working on this. I feel like we've reached a point where we feel like we can move forward. Yes, it is kind of a tight timeline, but I know that naturally things may not happen because it's delayed and it does end up getting further. But I think from our perspective as a board, the library directors have talked this over, and it's time to move forward and see where it takes us at this point.
Tara?
So several years ago, we had talked about rolling it out 50% the first year and 50% the second year, so that it wasn't a big hit for the libraries that would be losing money. So I don't know if that's an option, but I think it's worth at least including a brief discussion to see if that could work.
Tara, that is, and actually in the first year application of the formula is actually going to be 75% of the existing distribution rate and 25% new distribution rate. So year one would be 75 old, 25 new. Year two, it's 50-50. And then in year three, those ratios reverse to 25 old, 75 new. And then finally, in that fourth year, if the plan would be full funding on the new formula.
Which that way is fairer to Coquille taking the cut. They, 50-50 first year, Coquille will take an awful cut.
Is there consideration of the increase in the property values, or is that an unknown number?
We looked at that. Yeah, and it just does this. There's no way to predict it.
Even though the state measure allows for a 3% increase annually because of the huge variation in collections here in Coos County, whether or not we actually receive an increase in our tax base varies from year to year, and it's certainly not a consistent 3%. The other factor is that depending on how many district-wide projects we take on under the umbrella of the ESO and what extended service office costs are for each year, that also affects the amount of funding that trickles down or is available then to distribute to the library. So there is a lot time
I just know my property taxes. Time to sell, except no.
I wish that you could earmark that.
Yeah, I think we looked at it and there was only 1 year in the past 5 years.
2020 was like a big increase, and that's when the property taxes like skyrocketed. And then pretty much every year in the last, I think it was 7 or 8 years that we did, was actually less. Most of them were less than 3% a year.
Anybody else? Any more discussion? My personal belief is that if we go to the commissioners with a united front, you stand a better chance of not going south and sideways in the commissioners meetings. But that means you're going through city councils, library boards, and everybody has to, at least most people, groups need to get on board, so.
So I think the libraries that will benefit are, they're willing to take the risk that it will pass. Or some of them might have to implement a way to, if their funding falls below the minimum amount necessary to operate clause.
Is there further discussion? And board members, are you feeling that you're ready to vote on this? Okay, 3. Yeah, all right, looks like everybody that's here that's on the board is willing to vote. So shall we?
Have 7.
Pardon
Because
me?
you have 5 in and 2 on, so you're all here,
Oh, cool.
which has not happened in a while.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion for the approval of the distribution formula and transition plan as presented.
I make that motion.
Second. Thank you. All in favor? We have a motion and a second on the table. All in favor, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? It's like the motion passed.
And that was Carol that seconded.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, so new business?
Yeah, and I don't think we have anything for new business.
Anybody have anything they want to call up as new business? Okay, ESO report.
All right, so everything's running smoothly in ESO. We have a full-time ILL technician, a full-time outreach technician, a full-time driver. We have a part-time cataloger that is very, very part-time. She fills in for the libraries that need assistance when they need it. We're kind of starting the discussions. The libraries are all running very smoothly for quite a while now that she really hasn't had many hours. So she's discussing most likely going to be actually going into her retirement and not help us anymore. So we're kind of trying to figure some things out so that we do have somebody in case anybody needs the extra assistance. And that she probably won't be doing that till probably later on next year, before the new fiscal year, closer to that, her full retirement. But other than that, I mean, everything's pretty good there. In the back of your packet is our budget, current budget. And we're balancing out better with our materials. We had all of my contractuals, most of those get paid and they're high ticket items at the beginning of the year. So that's balancing out. We did have a larger carryover from last year's budget than we had originally thought. So those numbers will be plugged into this. They haven't gotten around to plugging them in yet, but that will be plugged in there too. And what we don't use always just gets carried over next year. Let's see. Anything that looks abnormal, the contractuals, they're still balancing out. Most of those have already been paid for the whole year. Office supplies, we bought our new library cards, so that's why that one's higher, because that was a huge ticket item. And library books and records is high. That is due to our overdrive. It's just been going in, people have been going insane with e-audiobook checkouts this year for some reason. It's the new thing, I guess, but so that's why that's high, and I'm just kind of monitoring it at this point to keep it where it needs to be. And then equipment maintenance contract, a lot of that's paid out at the beginning of the year as well, for our Koha, our database for our catalog. And that's pretty much it. Any questions on that?
I have a question.
Yeah.
That is related in some ways to ESO and the
Okay.
budget. And I'm sorry, I didn't send this to you as an agenda.
Oh, no, it's okay.
But I would be interested in hearing input from the Coos Library Board about the Tidal Wave program.
Oh, good call.
It is the time of year in which I would typically begin working on that project. It is something that is in this fiscal year's budget for the spring, but I know that I've heard that there was a request for discussion on that item.
Yeah, so last year was not, we had high expectations and it just did not fulfill the way that we thought it was going to. So we're kind of in limbo right now if we should continue the program, find a different program, look at ways to revamp it again, which I feel like we just did. So we kind of want to know what the board's opinion on that would be.
Remind me what the Tidal Wave program is.
Haley.
It's fantastic. I fell in love with a new author because of it, actually.
Kara's a big fan. Typically, we do feature Pacific Northwest or regional authors. I'm not sure, Stacey, would it be difficult for you to give us an estimate of how much we expended on the program last year? We do have a relatively large project line in the budget, but we don't expend the full amount of that.
I want to say it's about 12,000, 10 to 12, I would
Is that
say.
where the authors
Come
come?
to visit, yes, and we, in the last, I would say, 4 years, approximately have co-hosted that program with the Curry County Libraries. And I took over that planning task because I inherited it from the prior North Bend director, but it is a district-wide group effort to put that program on.
Well, I personally think it should be put on the back burner, at least for 2 years. Maybe look for a new project. I don't think less than 150 patrons showing up for a $12,000 event is good business. And it could definitely be used with the libraries during this transition time.
Sure.
I've always gone, I love it, but I've noticed, I was in a room a couple of years ago with 8 people in North Bend.
Yeah.
How many locations did he appear in? Was he?
We had,
Last year?
Yeah.
there was,
Counting Curry also? Pardon? Counting Curry County also, or just? Yeah, how many? He was at more than one library to speak.
Yeah.
How many? Where? 5, I believe.
And they held a joint meeting at a school, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
so we did one program for Coos Bay and North Bend. There was a program in Bandon. Were there any other programs in Coos County?
the meet and greet, the luncheon.
Oh, we did a lunch for the author in North Bend, and that actually, I think.
That was
probably
by
had
far the
highest-
biggest.
But that was a ticketed lunch, so it wasn't open to the general public without a charge. And then in Curry County, they hosted one program, so lunch, Coos Bay, North Bend, Bandon, Curry County, so ordered 4 appearances last year, which was fewer than in years prior.
So you made that attempt to getting around.
There's a theory that the pandemic is over, and it really isn't. And it's hard getting people to come into libraries or stores still.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I see more and more masks all of a sudden. So, that's something to think about too, to maybe at least put it on the back burner for 1 year and revisit it next year.
What I am hearing is that although we have good positive feelings about the program, there's not a strong desire or that we must go forth with it this year. So what I can do then is to go back to the directors group and we could brainstorm alternative programs or perhaps another project to try this year and we can come back to the board at another meeting.
And that's, we need to let Curry know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
other issue is that
Yeah.
we'll need to let the Curry County librarians know.
Did Curry County, contribute money?
Yeah.
They paid their portion.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we kind of divide it up in a way that each library pays the same amount. So they pay slightly less than us because they have one appearance in 5 libraries, and we had 3 appearances in 8 libraries.
So that
So
means it costs more than 12,000.
No, that's like the total.
Okay.
Oh, what comes out of our budget, I believe, was 8. I don't know, I don't have the numbers right off the top of my head, but I want to say it was around 8.
Okay.
And that's not necessarily all from ESO's budget either. Each of the libraries puts in so much money as well. So maybe 6,000 of that actually comes out of the budgeted
Right.
for ESO. Yeah.
You have someone raising their hand.
Yes.
The lady on the bottom.
Laura, I think.
Right.
Laura?
No, it's actually me.
Oh.
I just am concerned about the schools. Like, I really think that it's like, sure, maybe adults don't come out as much, but having the kids be exposed to an author, a lot of our kids would not ever get that kind of opportunity. They wouldn't be able to go somewhere. So that to me is really like, I realize that it isn't cheap, but I also think that having an author come and speak to kids and give them that exposure. And, maybe there are kids who think, oh, I'd love to be an author, but, somebody tells them, oh, you can't, it's really hard to be an author, but maybe that inspires them. Or maybe the conversation with hearing the author motivates them to want to read. Like, I just feel like that we really need to consider the educational option as well.
So were there children at this last tidal wave?
Not the last one, but the one before that. It was very child heavy. And it could have also been because it was closer to the end of the school year or just after school was out. So that might even be an option that we can discuss in the directors group, is maybe more of a family style author.
Lori?
You're muted.
Thank you. Thought I clicked it. I wanted to thank Tara for mentioning that, because at North Bend High School, we have been involved in Tidal Wave, but it's been a number of years before. And it was fabulous for those students to have that opportunity. But I also know that Tidal Wave primarily focuses on, it would be like an adult author or a higher end young adult author. Maybe, yeah, I was going to say a family style, a picture book where more families might join in, and younger kids, and possibly the elementary levels at the schools. Just a thought. It's kind of sad to see Tidal Wave go, but I understand that ratio of participants to dollars spent.
It doesn't have to go away. It could just take a break during the turmoil of the transition.
So one year you guys did, during the pandemic, you did a virtual, did that, was there good attendance?
That one actually did really good. And it was cozy mysteries. So I think because we did like a countywide scavenger hunt and things like that. And so the kids really did get involved with that one.
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 evenings of events. Finally meeting the author, but there were all these special things going on in between.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if ESO bought the books or if they were donated by the author, but everybody got 2 books.
They come out of the ESO budget.
Okay.
So, and that's also something to consider, is finding an author that has maybe, paperback, something that's less expensive. Because we didn't, this last year, we didn't buy any, I don't think. And then the year before that was just like giveaways because they were so expensive because they were only in hardcover. So.
Session and good information. And there is, we do have a lot of flexibility. It's our project and we can make it what we want it to be. And so I'll take all of this back and we can discuss it as directors and come back with some recommendations to Stacy for what we think might work.
Cool. All right. I think that
Director's report?
that concludes me.
Director's report. Letty, you want to?
In Dora, we have been working on kids programming. We don't have many kids, but all the kids that are, I would say most of the kids that are in our community are participating. So that's pretty cool. We started some passport programs for the kids for the winter to continue to read after summer reading. And they're coming each week at the library, getting their stamps and they're rating their books and saying how they like them or didn't and why. They love to say why they don't like them. It's a highlight of their day. But it's been pretty successful and I am getting ready for a Christmas program with the kids where they will come and get their prizes and they're gonna have some games. We're gonna have the decoration for our adult Christmas program the next day. So the kids are gonna come and they're gonna get their prizes and play games and they're all very excited, very excited. They ask me every week, they go, so is it on the 15th? Yeah. I wanna wear pajamas or ugly Christmas sweaters and so it's all in the effort of trying to, and Halloween was very successful. The funny part is that there were more parents there who were listening, which I thought it was pretty cool. And now the parents are looking forward to the program too. So that's what we're working on. Oh, we're working on social media. A lot of people have been following the library as far as our community, of course, and trying to keep up with all the events and the programming and that kind of thing. So it's been busy, but I think it's going pretty well.
Awesome.
We received a couple of small grants for youth programming, so we're working on getting surveys out, getting input from the community on what they want us to do with it. Probably our most successful program this year has been an escape room that we did for the first time, called the Crazy Librarian, and it was mostly adults that that wanted to do it and came and did it. But we had quite a few teams too, but. Yeah. All by myself. Yeah. Yeah. The door wasn't locked. Anyway, it was something I got offline off of Programming Librarian, and I have all the stuff. If there's any libraries that want to borrow it for their library to do, I have everything set up, and it's really so super simple and fun. So, we're hoping on doing another one.
Yeah.
Excited?
So,
Well, just stuff. We've got, we started some Dungeons and Dragons programming that's going well. That's been our newest addition, so that's really taken off, which is nice. Anyway, winter, art camp for teens that's going to be a little break so they can come and do different techniques.
Can I ask a question? Are the art classes that your library gives, are they free to the public or?
All of our programming is free.
At North Bend, we are recovering from hosting story time with Mrs. Claus.
Impressive.
It was a real big event. And we are going to be having a winter solstice celebration on December 21st on the solstice. And we'll start with crafts for all ages in the afternoon at 2 p.m. and we'll go until we have open mic night at 6 p.m. and people are invited to do acoustic performances, singing, poetry recitations, whatever they feel represents the season. And I think the crafts are going to be really fun. We're going to have beeswax candles. So it'll be fun. And then on the administrative side of things, I am just very deep into renovation fundraising. They did complete the restoration project on the exterior of the building at the end of the summer. And so we are now waterproof. And so I am busy working on both plans and fundraising for the interior improvements that need to be made to the library.
Teresa?
So we are doing all our programs, staying busy as usual. We're down a couple of part-time people. They got different jobs with more hours. So we closed on Saturday temporarily. So we're open Monday through Friday. In the new building, all of the demo is done and they've started framing. And if anyone wants to watch the progress, you can follow us on Facebook. I post pictures about once a week of what's going on in there. It's pretty exciting. We're looking forward to it being done.
Cheryl?
You're muted.
So our city manager has resigned and our mayor has been recalled along with 3 council members. So I'm just really hoping that someone will sign our paychecks this month because they'll all be gone. So that's kind of weird over here in Lakeside, but anyway, we've had a lot of fun things since October. We did a witches night out. We had 32 women and young adults show up to do that program. It was just a ton of fun. Everybody wearing witch hats and acting silly. That was really fun. We've been working really hard. Last Friday we had a holiday make and take for all people of all ages. We had over 100 people in this little library, and I went home and went to sleep. It was crazy. But my staff had made just all these different make and takes. I think we had 9 tables in here. And if you haven't been to Lakeside Library, you would find that funny because it was. So that was really fun. So we have whatever was left from that day. We have a new make and take every day in the library during December for people to come in and get and take home. I've been really impressed with this community giving to the library. We've got a holiday basket raffle going on, and people have been buying tickets like crazy. We raffled off a big fall quilt. A lot of people donated to that. I think we sold like 300 tickets for it. And we've been really involved with the Angel Tree of Giving this year because there's not a lot of places to put a tree in this community, and with City Hall being in such flux, we decided to go ahead and do it. So we are now a drop-off place for gifts, and that's going really well. And so far I have a pretty stable staff. Everybody's part-time, real part-time. So we've just been trying to stay dry. And we also got approval from the city manager before she left to replace our front door, which we have to sand every few days to try and get it open and closed. So we really needed one. So that's exciting. I know, it's the small things.
Amy.
Okay, let's see. We had our grand reopening. We had Darren and his Darren the Courier and his barbershop group called Second Wind performed, and everybody really loved them. So I highly recommend them. That was really, really popular. There were 70 people at our adult grand opening party, and there were 48 people at our children's and family party the next day because we had two separate things. Oh, okay. And it's really great to be open. We've almost got all of our stuff going. Unfortunately, when DFN came this summer to install our fax line, they told me that we already have a fax line. And I said, I know, but I needed to move. But they didn't do that. They just left apparently. So I'm waiting on DFN to come back in and install a fax line. But everything else is going really, really great, and I'm happy to be open again.
Joni?
You muted yourself, Joni. You muted again. You're muted again. Now you're not. Yeah. Are you there, Joni?
Maybe she's frozen.
Joni, write your update in the chat and we'll read it for you. Not much going on here. Thanks, Joni.
At least she isn't worried about getting her paycheck signed.
Yeah. That is a bonus.
Are her lips moving or is she just not?
She doesn't have a camera on her computer, but her, her microphone is apparently not working. It did at the beginning of the meeting, which is strange.
So
I think that's it.
moving on. Next meeting.
Next meeting.
To be announced, or-
I think so. I think it's going to be after we go to stakeholders.
It'll be in early February.
There you go. And then we're hoping in March to go to commissioners. Is that what we had? By March? Okay, so yeah, early February.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
When we go to the commissioners, what does that exactly mean?
It's a good question. Haley?
Well, that would probably be a question for the county legal counsel, because you would be going as a board. So I'm not sure if
Okay.
don't know what their version of a city recorder is. I don't remember.
Right.
But
Does
these
the
are their
whole,
staff.
does the whole board go or?
I don't know.
Oh,
I'll try and find out. I reached out to them to try and get like a time frame nailed down and really got really vague answers. So I don't even know that at this point they know
Yeah.
what we would do. So
Based on what I know about local governments, the process would be something like either a representative or a representative group of your board members. I would say probably a representative group of your board members, something less than a quorum, so that you weren't in session at the commissioners meeting, would go to the commissioners work session. And this would be an item for discussion on their work session agenda, and then at a subsequent board meeting, they would then either approve or not. And so at both of those meetings, you would probably want to have a representative for the Coos Library Board. But who that is and how many that is would probably be something that their staff would need to recommend to the board.
okay.
But they're public meetings, so
Yeah.
we could all go.
Yeah.
Be here.
I
Yeah.
think that it would be beneficial to have at least one person that was on this committee. be
I agree with
part of
that, definitely.
Because they are the people that can make the explanation. Lived with it for 8 years or whatever.
Well, it would
what
make sense.
committee are you
that-
talking about?
The distribution committee, I think, should be.
Oh, okay.
It would make sense that you as president would go to present it. And yes, having those who've been on the committee
The answers.
to answer questions.
So the committee would be expected to explain the new formula?
Probably.
Well, at least
So-
answer questions.
I would say be prepared to answer questions. They probably, depending, from previous board meetings at the commissioners level that I've been involved in, they'll often, they may have questions. They may, want to know who all was involved and are the directors on board. They may have questions like that, but not anything. They're not going to want to know nitty gritty details. They're going to want more of a 30,000-foot view. But definitely somebody from the committee should be there, and the board chair, and then whomever else would be. I mean, it doesn't need to be a huge contingent, but there's something to be said for having more than just 2 people there for the show of solidarity.
You have to remember, they've never done this. So it's gonna be all new territory for them.
Yeah, well, and I was thinking perhaps having the material sent to them ahead of time
Oh, yeah,
so they could
sure.
go
Yeah.
over it.
Yeah. Well, and they have a new legal counsel since
Right.
the
Correct.
former legal,
Another one, but it's.
it was the former legal counsel that wanted some justification for the fee, which started this whole.
I think that was
not the
actually
fee, but the rate-
2 ago or 3
the
ago.
formula, yeah, so, it's a whole new board,
Right.
except for Bob Main.
And John.
I don't think
They weren't-
there when it started.
I don't think either of them were involved initially they've both been on the board since we've been working on this, but neither of them were on the board much before 8 or 9 years ago. So all of this is new to them.
Sure.
To be honest, they may not even fully understand that the libraries get allocations. And I'm not saying that to be demeaning to them, but they have a lot of things to manage and supervise. So knowing how those funds get dispersed probably is something that they're blissfully unaware of, and it just takes care of itself. They trust the ESO to manage it and let them know if there's problems. So, but definitely they will need the documents in advance. It will have to be part of their packet.
Perfect. All right, so I will work with getting all that information on what we need for that prior to the next board meeting at the beginning of February. And with that approval, we'll discuss at the directors meeting what to do next with stakeholders later this week.
Yes.
And then we'll meet with you guys in February.
Anybody else have anything they want to say? Okay, hearing nothing. We'll adjourn the meeting at 3:22 p.m. Yes.
I love
Yeah.
Haley, I haven't forgotten about your request for me in regards to